You see, some few days ago, niliona this guy na complain about sijui mafuta ya kupika, sijui eti sunflower na tujui pali sunflower inatolewa. And I was like, see, you people already know pali tunatoa hizi vitu. Then it struck me, maybe watu hawajui. Let me create awareness. Watch this video till the end.
One of the biggest ones, of course, is cholesterol. Cholesterol was the boogeyman of all time. You know, it even superseded evil spirits. Okay? Cholesterol. It was the cause of heart disease. It was the cause of strokes. And it turns out to be absolutely, positively not true. It all started back in 1901 when a German chemist was actually commissioned, I guess would be the word, by the German Navy to come up with a lubricant, a synthetic lubricant for diesel engines used in submarines. And he was successful. His name was Wilhelm Norm in 1901. He was successful, but they only had 100 submarines. So it was not too exciting as far as a market. And so he sold his patent to a British soap firm. They wanted to use it to make soap. And he said, oh, gosh, people are making their own soap. We can't sell it. And so they sold it to Procter & Gamble. They sold the patent to Procter & Gamble. And they said, we can do a better job of selling soap. And they couldn't sell soap. Even when I was a kid, we were making our own soap in the early 40s. We were making our own soap still. And so Procter & Gamble couldn't sell it as soap. They say, well, what's the next biggest market? Submarines are too small a market. Soap is a big market, but everybody's making their own soap. Let's sell it as food. So they began to diss butter and cream and lard as cooking as an unhealthy way to cook. It's saturated fats and has cholesterol in it, and it clogs arteries and does all this stuff. And the American Heart Association was commissioned by Procter & Gamble, who owned the patent for Crisco, which was the name of this lubricant for diesel engines for Nazi submarines, Crisco. And they sold it as a healthier way to cook than cream, butter, and lard, which people have been using for centuries. Well, following their lead, saying that that's correct, we wound up with Alzheimer's disease, low T, erectile dysfunction, adrenal exhaustion, severe menopausal symptoms, many other problems, all because of lowering cholesterol in our diet, using egg beaters instead of eggs, boneless, skinless chicken breasts instead of chicken skin. And the American Heart Association came out, like a bandit, because they got their $1.7 million back in the, I think it was like 1914, about in there, which is a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money, but it was a lot of money back then, in exchange for an endorsement that Crisco was a much healthier way to cook your food and eat than using butter and cream and lard. Well, I looked for 35 years to find a pivotal paper which showed that belief was correct, and you can't find it because it didn't exist. It was all an ad campaign to sell Crisco. Okay, it was a two full-page story in the Wall Street Journal about 8 months ago. In June 23rd, 2014, I think it was somewhere between an 8 and 10-page story, and it was all about Ansel Keys, a guy who was on the board of Procter & Gamble, on the board of the American Heart Association. He brokered the deal for the $1.7 million from Procter & Gamble to the American Heart Association to get them to endorse Crisco as a healthier way to cook. Well, they created Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease did not exist in 1944. Today it's number 4 killer of adults over the age of 65. Low T certainly didn't exist when I was a kid, and Grandpa didn't have to worry about low T and erectile dysfunction. Menopausal symptoms, Grandma used to go through menopause in 3 seconds in their 70s because they were still cycling and having babies in their 60s. Okay. Adrenal exhaustion is very, very common today, where before you have to appreciate testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and adrenal hormones are all steroid hormones, which are 95% by weight cholesterol.